My eyes creaked open. A splitting headache struck at my temple as I tried to remember how to breathe. Right, the sky was broken. How long would that damned curse keep the skies all hellish? The blue bastard was Though I lay entrenched in mud, I was cold. Why? Nobody was cold anymore. Not with the heavens literally raining flames down all the time. Everything was so stiff, I couldn't even swallow. There was something getting in the way. My throat felt off. I wasn't sure what I dreamed about, but it left me half numb. I was aching to hold Rory. No, I was desperate. I desperately needed him in my arms, right now. It took some time to move my head because my neck was this useless thing. It felt sore and bruised, but from what? I saw a glimpse of sandy hair feathering gently off his forehead. Looks like we'd fallen asleep outside, and he'd ended up hugging me as his pillow. That was rare. Rory was usually more cautious about being seen. Wrapping my arms around his body, I was shocked at how cold he was. No wonder I was freezing. Funny, he had his pelt on him and everything. I blinked my eyes, then blinked them again. Stains had ruined the beautiful frosty white of his cape. Dark stains, mostly, but in a few places it was unmistakably red. All at once, I sat up, moving his cold body so that he lay in the crook of my arm. I stared down into his still face for a while, a long while. Then, I remembered. I'm not sure how long I sat with him, cradled in my arms. I know my back was tremoring from sitting slumped for so long. Tingles shot into my spine at each breath. Those breaths came faster and faster until, eventually, I realized there was fire. I might have swallowed some from the sky. It burned through my stomach, so hot there was no sitting still. So we rocked, me and Rory, back and forth, again. The scene that kept playing for me was when Rory closed his hand around my throat. I had given in to him only because I thought he was taking me, too. Why didn't he kill me? Rory knew how to kill a man with his bare hands. Even on the cusp of dying, I refused to believe he didn't have the strength to just reach his strong fingers up under my chin and finish it. So why was I still here? The thoughts refused to connect. I felt that slide of his leg climbing painfully slow over mine. Remembered how he'd ended up on top. He'd said goodbye, hadn't he? Well, he'd told me he loved me, but wasn't that the same thing? After replaying that scene a dozen and more times, I finally concluded. No, had to conclude. Rory had never planned on taking me with him. He had saved me. He'd forced me unconscious, then hid me beneath his blood, his dying body, also that blue bastard. That blue bastard. A roar broke the sky. I didn't believe it came from me, not until I felt my throat ache. Oh, it ached so bad. So I screamed louder, until my voice was utterly wrecked, until I was surrounded by a wall of noise. There were no trees to bounce that sound back to me, but somehow it did. Ringing in my head spiked agony. I tried scrunching my forehead to alleviate it, but the only cure for this was an axe to the brain. I stopped screaming once I realized I'd have to leave Rory's body to go find an axe. But wait, There was a sword. I had my sword. Rory should have known better than to save me. If he'd known he was dying, he should have told me. I would have dealt with it myself. I didn't ask to live. Not like this. Never like this. Gently, I shifted Rory's stiff body to my other arm, while I scrounged helplessly, one hand slapping at my back. The tingles reminded me that any movements were going to hurt, but I pushed past the white sparks and the black dots. Once I got the sword, it wouldn't matter anymore. I grasped the familiar pommel, the scraggly head of the lion at the very bottom, imprinted with the veins of a leaf. Fused with lionite, the veins looked more like cracks, but it allowed the crystal to breathe. Boss gave me his old sword pommel last year. He'd trained with this sword. Every time I grabbed it, my fingers found the smooth spots he'd worn away. My hand found its place, but before I could swing it out, I noticed what was around us. Vague memories mixed with dreams. I remembered the slaughtered pride of lions, but these weren't lions. They were lions. Familiar pelts registered somewhere in my brain, but it didn't stop the swing, releasing my sword from confinement. It came unsheathed. Where were you last night to protect me from that sword glare? I wanted to demand, but the only one at fault was me. Me, the best warrior among the lions, felled by a bright light and useless as his life was murdered. Rory and I had stuck to the back, but in the red of day, I could see everything. Bellant, Liony, Madam Commander, Nanny, the Lieutenant Corporal, all the other lions, all the other families who'd come with us, chasing freedom, running from a king no more harmful than a garden snake, all to end up like this. Like this? The pommel of my sword glared at me, and I glared right back. I was angry with it, so angry. Where were you? Where were you? Where were you? I was right here, Elle, it said. I was here the whole time. Where were you, Elle? I know. I know. I know. I know. The sword sang through the air. The sound usually excited me, filled me with pride. The only other lions who could make their sword move like that were Boss and Nanny. Not even the Lieutenant Corporal could move her halberd so that it sang. But now the sound disgusted me. One slice and it'd all be over. One slice, and the pain would only be a temporary dream. I didn't know what came next. Had no clue, and never cared before. Whether I'd meet everyone on some fluffy field with a yellow sky or meet the smothering embrace of nothing. Both of those were better than being stranded here with these images. They were in front of me and plastered behind my eyelids. They were all around me, floating in the air, shimmering within each spark of fire spitting down. Each breath that filled my lungs, and each breath that didn't. This was not right. This was not. I can't live like this. Baby, I touched my forehead to Rory's. Slowly, I let out a breath. Even when the air was gone, I kept breathing out until a little swirl of dizziness played at my throbbing brain. We teetered as my perception got all twisted, but I didn't let go of him. I'd never let go. I love you too. Funny. Why couldn't I remember ever saying that before? He had to have known, though. If he didn't, then I'd just have to tell him. I'm sure I'll see him. No oblivion for us. Even if we were the first ones to meet after death, I'd see it through. What was there to fear? A holy something or other gatekeeping Rory and me from reuniting? Bring it on. The blade arced high. It twanged a sour note unlike any I'd ever heard from it before, but I chalked it up to my desperation, my trembling. This would be messy, but the vultures who would come to peck out all our innards wouldn't care about that. As I swung down, I didn't close my eyes. I stared at the lions laid out before me. If I had any regrets about following after them so soon, it would be that I hadn't given them a proper burial. A giant roar shocked my ears out of hearing, but it was too late to stop the swing. Within moments, however, I realized the blade never found its mark.